What's going on, everybody? We are looking at a pretty red day, as you can see behind me. Mega cap tech is selling off. Crypto related stocks are selling off. Bitcoin miners, crypto exchanges, pretty much everything crypto related is selling off today. And Bitcoin just made history. Bitcoin just created new all-time highs. We're going to talk about what's going on in the market today. Hopefully you guys are taking advantage of a day like this. Let's get started. If you guys like these videos, you know what to do. And let's look at what's going on. And first off, Apple's selling off with mega cap tech along with it. We do have this roughly $2 billion fine for Apple by the European Union for anti-competitive app policies. And also, Apple phone sales in China have dropped, a 24% decrease in sales. We also have testimony from the Fed coming up, US jobs report. This is going to be a pretty big week. We have labor market data coming in on Wednesday, and the Fed will be watching these numbers. It could influence their decision. And at the tail end of the week, we have jobless claims, unit labor costs, non-farm productivity numbers, and also the US jobs report on Friday. If we see weakness, that would be a good thing in terms of Fed cuts. And Fed Powell is giving testimony Wednesday and Thursday, so the market's definitely going to be keeping an eye on that. And the market is expecting for now the March Fed meeting to leave rates unchanged, but the market still is expecting rate cuts no later than July, maybe even as soon as May. So rate cuts are still around the corner. It's just a matter of getting through the end here, finally getting that inflation a little lower. And the market currently expects right around 4 rate cuts by the end of this year. But in this March meeting, the Fed members will update their forecasts. So this potential 4 may change to only 3. But we are going to see at least a few rate cuts this year, in my opinion. And we have Bitcoin creating new all-time highs. Typically, we see all-time highs after the halving, so it's coming around a little early. This might mean the peak this cycle might be coming in earlier too. Rather than being around late 2025, it could be mid or early 2025. As everyone starts realizing how Bitcoin is affected by the 4-year cycle, everyone's trying to play it on that cycle. People are trying to get in earlier, and people are going to likely try to exit earlier as well. And just look at Bitcoin. Now it's pulling back a bit. We saw a false breakout. We ran all the way up, retested, tried to break out of this previous peak, just barely created new all-time highs, and then the market sold off. The market took advantage of all these leveraged traders expecting this to just continue, and honestly, Bitcoin was due to cool down a bit. When you just see nothing but green days like this, you are definitely due for some consolidation at the least. Let that RSI cool down before we go on our next run. But I remain extremely bullish. I do think this is the last golden cross until we see a death cross at some time in 2025. I do not see us flipping these very bullish ascending moving averages, having them flip, go to a death cross, and having us head towards 30,000 or something. I highly doubt something like that will happen. And I do think we are looking at the final golden cross here until we see, like I said, a death cross in probably mid 2025 or something. And these longer term trend indicators are very valuable. In the last Bitcoin halving cycle, a death cross was flashed in 2022 in January. So while yes, these types of indicators don't tell you the top or the bottom, they give you an idea of the longer term trend ahead of you. Potentially. But if you would have sold on this death cross and then re-entered on Bitcoin, you would have sold last cycle in the mid 40,000 area, and you would have bought in this cycle right around 20,000 or so. So yes, you wouldn't have got the bottom at 15,000, but you also would have avoided all this downtrend. You also would have been avoiding buying this in a downtrend. And just to show you guys the previous cycle and why I don't see a death cross until towards the end of this cycle, meaning at some point mid 2025, we saw our golden cross in the last cycle in May 2020, and we didn't see a death cross until roughly June 2021. And I do think our golden cross came in early this cycle, as opposed to roughly May of 2020, like I showed you guys. We had this golden cross come in roughly October, November area, so definitely a little bit early. But I do think it's partly due to the recent spot ETF hype, all the speculation on it over the last few months, the fact that people are realizing about the 4-year cycle, getting in earlier and earlier. I think that's why we're seeing these golden crosses earlier. But that's my prediction. We're not going to see another death cross until sometime in mid 2025, and Bitcoin throughout that time will overall be very bullish, continuing uptrending. And we also have this from Bernstein. Bitcoin ETFs are at the start of a $650 billion asset management build out. And they predict that the ETFs are expected to make up roughly 10% of Bitcoin's total value in 2025, with many market participants expected to switch from being crypto skeptics to potential adopters. And they mentioned BlackRock's fund IBIT. This set a new record on Friday, becoming the fastest fund in ETF history to cross the $10 billion threshold. These spot Bitcoin ETFs are clearly making waves, and we're going to continue to see inflows. We're going to continue to see this drive Bitcoin's price up. And just think, we have the halving coming in a little over a month now. We have all this buying pressure, and this is pre-halving. And I talked about this in one of my previous videos, but let me read it here for you. With the Bitcoin halving scheduled for April, the daily supply of new Bitcoin will be reduced by half, despite current market demand already exceeding new supply by 10 times. So this can definitely act as a catalyst for further Bitcoin price increase. The inflows are exceeding new supply by 10 times after the halving. You'd expect this would be by 20 times. They are taking all of the Bitcoin. And while overall long term this isn't necessarily a good thing, this is going to contribute to a huge price increase for Bitcoin. And I do suspect from here on out the 4-year cycles are going to come in a little earlier than expected, meaning maybe we continue seeing new all-time highs before future halvings. And we also see the peak come in earlier than we normally would. For instance, looking at previous cycles, you'd expect this peak to be right around late summer of 2025. But I'm suspecting it could come in earlier, potentially spring, but we'll have to wait and find out. We've got about a year and a couple months to figure that out. But thanks as always for watching, guys. What are you buying right now? It's definitely a great opportunity for a lot of the cryptos recently, Bitcoin miners. Finally seeing MicroStrategy sell off a little bit, Coinbase. I do think you got to jump on these pullbacks. Looking back, you'll be glad you did. Thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know what you're buying lately, and I'll see you next time.